Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Knock On Podcast, brought to you by Zero Table. And Dan, what a week of footy it has been. The highs, the lows, drama, talking points galore, and you've got them all. Hit me with them. We're running blank tonight.
So many talking points, Terry. I'm still waiting for a boring round of Rugby League. I'm convinced it ain't going to happen. Now, as with last week, we're going to start with the hot button issues first, because we like to talk here on the Knock On Podcast. That's what you're here for, obviously. And I want to hear you talk about Todd Smith has been rested this weekend. The second referee this year to be rested after a controversial call that Graham Annesley came out and said that they got correct, only to rest Todd Smith a few days later. I hate it.
He's resting him by making him be a useless touch judge. Look, if he was going to be rested, Annesley should have just come out and said it was wrong. I don't get it. They're throwing the referees to the wolves. If you're backing Todd Smith on what was arguably the most controversial call on the weekend, then give him a game. Just give him the game. If you turn around and saying the touch judge got it right, Todd Smith got it right, and the bunker got it right, none of them can be dropped. Simple as that. It's absolutely as simple as that. You cannot turn around and go, the toucher got it right, Todd got it right, the bunker got it right, but Todd needs a rest. Just doesn't work. I'm sorry, I can't agree with this.
No, completely agree with you, mate. Devil's advocate. If Todd Smith was rostered to be a touch judge this week, let's just say that's a thing. Mm-hmm. I don't believe that to be true, but let's say it is. Mm-hmm. Would you say, "Oi, we're going to do that next week"? I think they've absolutely bottled this. Now, this is the second time this has happened this year. I cannot remember because there's been about 50 bad refereeing decisions between then and now, whatever it was, where a decision was made that was like, Annesley came out and said, yeah, look, they probably got that wrong in hindsight. And then the next week, that very officiating team was rested. Might have even been Ziggy at the Bulldogs.
Yep.
He was rested when Cronulla played the Bulldogs, and they said, yeah, look, he had a few bad ones. We're going to rest him. Just say you're dropping him, or don't say anything at all. I think these Graham Annesley briefings need to stop. We're on record as saying that numerous times over, and I saw an opportunity to pile on, and I'm taking it because I hate it. And Todd Smith's been made a scapegoat for something that he got right.
The only thing that could backfire on them is if Todd was due to be the touch judge this week, has that controversial call, and they go, you know what? We don't want it to look like you were demoted. We're going to give you this game. And then he goes, that's another howler. Then you're sitting there going, God.
Well, what do you do, unfortunately? Look, I think we both agree, so we'll just move on to probably the most hot button issue. Now, we don't usually like to touch the real serious stuff here because we like to be fun. We'll leave that to the you know who they are. Michael Jennings will play his 300th game this week. The NRL are not going to celebrate it, yet they're allowing him to play it. What are your thoughts?
I got a two-stage process to this, right? Is there are so many players not so many. There are players in the game who are questionable characters, and you think, should they really be playing NRL? But the NRL, as it has notoriously been, is the opportunity for a second and third chance, right? I think the NRL, when the Roosters went to them and said, hey, we might be registering Michael Jennings' contract, the NRL went, look, he's 35, he hasn't played in a couple of years, chance of him playing first grade this year, slim to none, so be it. The Roosters are in a situation now where they've got so many injuries and suspensions and players out of form that they have to bring him in. Now, 300 games is huge, and I think he's like the 51st or 52nd player to get to the 300 games. If you're going to allow him back, you have to celebrate it. And that's the thing. It spits in the face of every female rugby league player, every female referee, every female fan, every female connected to rugby league. It absolutely spits in their face. Because you've allowed him to come back, but because you've allowed him to come back and complete what 95% of rugby league players haven't achieved. And I'm probably going to cop some grief for that now, but if you've allowed him to come back, you have to give him his flowers.
They've made their own bed. Now they need to line it. To say, hey, it's all good. You can play the game. You pass the character test. but we can't celebrate you, even though if you score 4 tries this weekend, you're going to be all over the papers. You're going to be all in the media. It's been acknowledged because I didn't even know it was his 300th game till this became. It's out there. Now I'm okay with them not parading him as a player that you should look up to or whatever. People can have their own opinions. I've certainly got mine, and that is that players, come in with very, very awful acts committed. I don't like it. I think they should miss women in league round at very least, but you can't pick and choose. If you let him back in, you got to say, hey, congrats on your 300th. You don't have to hire a Skyrider to say, hey, congrats so-and-so. But I just think they continue to shoot themselves in the foot. You're going to let him back in. You cannot pick and choose. They've said, notoriously, I wrote about Robert Louis years ago, and they said he came back in women in league round after he was convicted or whatever it was. It's been so long now. Some pretty horrible stuff. And they said, look, we can't let him back in and then tell him, but they're doing it now. Like, just make a decision. Either he can play or he can't. He can be celebrated or he can't. You just can't pick and choose. They've set that precedent.
Yeah, I'm running some numbers for you now, so just give me 1 minute.
Well, while you do that, I have seen some Roosters fans come out and say that, he's a player, he's playing for the Roosters, we're going to cheer him despite what happened. Others have come out and said, it's reignited the debate. Unfortunately, earlier you said and backtracked that a lot of players have done it. There's 1 per 2 teams now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be at the point where, going with Cronulla, Adam Fanua-Blake, he celebrated milestone games. I can't even remember the incidents in question, to be honest. I just know that they were bad. You've had players that have done some awful things celebrate.
In the history of Rugby League, how many players have played at least 1 game?
Oh, jeez. Thousands, right?
According to rugbyleagueproject.org, which is a fantastic website and a great place to look up historical games and players, but there have been 41,410 players to have played 1 game of rugby league, and Michael Jennings becomes the 51st player of them to play 300 games. It's an awful situation that we find ourselves in. But if you're going to allow him back and you're going to register his contract and say that he passed the fit for purpose character test to play rugby league, you've got to give the man his flowers. I hate it, but you've made your bed, lay in it. Cop the grief, and to come out and say we're going to celebrate it and then turn around and go, oh, actually, because of fan backlash. The fan backlash was when you allowed him to register his contract. It's not now. The fan backlash is not now. The fan backlash is when you have allowed him to register his contract. That's when the people were up in arms. Stupid.
Completely fair. Now, something a little bit more lighthearted, or a lot more lighthearted, is you and I are currently getting lambasted on the Twitter machine for saying that the Eels backline this weekend is not good. I'm here to stand by my comments that 2, 3, 4 and 5 is dire. And they've dropped the only player that I would look at and think, oh, geez, I hope he doesn't have a good game. Now, I'm a big fan of Will Penasini.
I'm not.
You were at one stage.
I never have been.
Oh, well, I was. I thought you agreed. Never mind. It's good when we disagree.
I have never, and to make it a point, because you and I were getting hammered tonight, I put in on the Twitter machine, I went onto my profile, I hit search, and I put the word Penasini. And since his debut, I have not had a positive thing to say about him.
Oh, well, there you go. Well, that, I was just hoping, I just wanted to put it out there. Now, that's a pretty bad backline. I put some bait out there and said that I would be embarrassed if that ran out for Newtown. Of course, that has taken the mick. But right now, Terry,
I don't think it is.
One backline that's less frightening than that. And what are they doing dropping Micah Sivo? Because he's the one bloke. Now, I know his form's been terrible. I'm not a card-carrying member of his fan base, his fan club by any stretch. But he's the one bloke that frightens me that he'll score a hattie and run for 200 metres because no one else in that back line other than the King is up to it.
Look, back in the day, you used to be able to joke and turn around and say, oh, the West Tigers back line would just be absolutely atrocious. This Eels back line is a genuine New South Wales Cup standard back line at best. I'm having a look at it now, and I'm having a look online, and I think maybe only South Sydney's backline could rival how poor it is. The Gold Coast is definitely another one that is crap.
Jack Long, though, he
I
walks
think
walks all
I
over.
think the Gold Coast, yeah, Gold Coast Souths and Parramatta are having a look at that backline right now and just going.
It's not
But
good.
if like Parramatta, if you're looking at that backline and going, Micah Sivo is not the option, but Morgan Harper or Sean Russell or Bailey Simonson is. Glad I'm not a Parramatta fan.
Again, I'm not sitting here saying that Sivo's had a fantastic return to rugby league. He's probably been below par for 18 months now. But
He's
on
better
his
than
day,
them.
he's frightening. Will Penasini's had some good games. I can't remember, and I don't want to turn this into a pile-on, but Morgan Harper is known for getting barked by Sif Talcott. Right? Sean Russell had some real highlights in New South Wales Cup. Probably earned his comeback, to be honest. His call-up. Bailey Simonson, okay, I've seen some good moments from him, but you tell me, hey, on the weekend you're debuting, you can either choose to mark Micah Sivo or Bailey Simonson. I know which one I'm choosing, and it ain't the ones with BS as their initials. I cannot believe this call, and I cannot believe the amount of Parramatta fans that are going, no, we're happy with this backline. How can you be happy with this backline?
Look, I just take it back to 2019 when Micah Sivo was in a race for the Rookie of the Year honour with Payne Haas. And Parramatta fans were jumping in his defence saying he's the best thing since sliced bread, he's the best thing since sliced bread. And he's had, I don't think 18 months, because I think he was not bad last year, but defensively, people always turn around and go, oh, defensively he's really poor and he makes some really bad reads. So is Will Penasini, dreadful defender. Bailey Simonson, I don't think could tackle a cat. And, like, your wingers aren't there to essentially stop tackles and whatever it is, right? They're the ones who have to make the decision to jam in or stay on their man. If they jam, like, generally your winger's going to get it wrong. Because if they jam in, you cut them out and the other winger scores. And if they stay on their man, you throw a short ball to the centre, right? But he's like last weekend, he was the only one that scored tries. And they turned around and said, Parramatta fans were turning around and saying to us, all he did was catch the ball and fall over the line. Why didn't they go to the other side of the field? Why didn't they go and try that with your other winger? Because he's crap. Why didn't they pass the ball to Will Penasini? Because he's crap. Why didn't they give the ball to Bailey Simonson? Because he's a New South Wales Cup player. I don't know. Let them have their fun. They're going to get spanked this weekend. It's all good.
They are. I just want to get that on record. I like having a bit of fun at their expense.
I love having a jab, especially at Parramatta fans. It's so good.
It is good fun. And we'll cop it in the comments, but whatever. That's what we're here for. Something a little bit, well, it's still fun, but a little bit more serious. Damien Cook has been dropped for the game against the Sharks this week. Now, I heard rumours that he was going to be demoted to the bench, and I thought, it's what's the difference, sort of thing. You give him 20 minutes, then you play him 60. You probably do that anyways. He's not even been named. He's been named 18th man. I said last week that Demetrio needs to come out and make some changes, and he needs to put some players on notice. I like it. I don't think he's earned the starting role, and I think they need to take a bet. But if my job is on the line, I'm putting Damien Cook as my 9.
I get it because young Peter Mamazoulis is apparently like the heir apparent for South Sydney, right? But Damien Cook has been one of, if not the Rabbitohs' best and most consistent players since he moved to South Sydney. So we're having a look at the bench. You've got Cheekham, Sevilla Havili, Shaquille Mitchell and Davey Moali. You telling me there isn't a spot there for Damien Cook?
Well, they dropped Havili the other week.
Yeah, I know.
They're bringing him back.
And like the 18th man, what's you need to get a couple of injuries and then you're going to bring on a number 9, so you're going to have 3 hookers in your team? I don't get it. There's, young Tyrone Munro has come back from injury, and you don't like hearing the words he's returned early. And he's going to be with young Isaiah Tass on that side as well. So that's going to be a very inexperienced side for Ronaldo Militalo and Caolero to have a run at on that night. I think the pressure's really got to Demetrio, and the rumours have come out that he's got 1 week to save his career, and unfortunately Troy Mitchell is suspended for 3. So look, the writing's on the wall. I think even if they can upset Cronulla this weekend, I think he's gone.
Yeah, I agree. Now, we've got that. We'll discuss that more later on. But staying to Cook, I get it that he's trying to send a message, but I think he's got the wrong player.
Absolutely got the wrong player. How does Tane Milne survive?
Well, there's about 4 of them that you probably would have dropped beforehand. I honestly think outside Cam Murray, you could have made an example out of anyone because you just cannot drop him. He's the heart and soul of that club, being their best player by a mile. But, I mean, Jack Whiten's been pretty good too, but if you're asking a centre to stand up and be, I think their number 6, Cody Walker, has got a lot to answer for. I think he's been bad. Now, I know I'm really opening up the wall where he comes out and kills us on the weekend and has a great game. Fantastic player. Had a wow of a career despite starting late. I just feel that he's picked a scapegoat and it's the wrong bloke. And also, looking at the players he's brought in, Havili, he dropped a couple of weeks ago for what was probably the worst half of football of the season. Shaq Mitchell comes in and out and seems to be, look, I don't think he's a first grader, although his best career game to date was against the Sharks last year in round 1, where he absolutely took us apart. I think if Lachlan Ilias had been fit, I think he comes back in, but obviously suffered a horror injury, and our hearts go out to him. That was terrible to see. I think Cody might have made his entry via the bench. It reeks of desperation. I don't hate it because, I mean, you can't name the same team and get beaten every week. That's literal insanity, doing the same thing, expecting a different result. But Damien Cook wasn't the bloke to drop.
No, Damien Cook definitely was not the bloke to drop. I think, as you said, there's about 4 or 5 players on paychecks that you could, like I've been really, really, really underwhelmed by Keon Kolomatangi. And I know, again, like you, I'm opening a can of worms where these guys come in absolutely monstrous this week. But, it is what it is. You just got to hope, like on the South Sydney side of things, you got to hope that the changes are right. But it doesn't matter. I don't think there's enough time left for Demetrio now.
Now, bouncing back to South Sydney, I have a question for you, Terry. If you're a first grade coach, congratulations, first of all, and you hear rumours, whether it be true or not, that you've got 1 game to save your career, are you picking a team that goes out there and gets beaten by 40 out of spite? Are you picking your strongest team? Are you taking risks? Or are you thinking, well, I'm going anyway, so I might as well have some fun with this?
I'm handing 6 or 7 debuts to players that don't deserve it, right? If it's your last week, right? Regardless, if like he has to know, there has to be a conversation that's been had that says, look, whether you win by 40 or you lose by 40, you're gone this weekend. I'll be turning around and saying, cool, let me just make my marker of it. Whoever's in the top 30 that needs a game that hasn't had a game yet, they'd be in. I'd drop Cody Walker. I'd play Ken Murray on the wing. I'd put Damien Cook in the centre so he gets a crack at Origin. Like, just do it all. Just go out there and have an absolute mess of it. Because if you lose 80-0, guess what? You turn around and go, well, I was gone anyway. What do you do?
Might as well go out and blaze go. I don't think the word is...
No, I wouldn't do that.
I don't think the words come through that he's got a game to save his career, because that would be utterly ridiculous. That says to me, you're gone. As soon as you lose, you're gone. So unless they have, a 23-game win streak and go through undefeated, win the premiership, he's gone. That's how I see it. The writing's on the wall. Demetrio is Gonskis.
Pretty sure we called that pre-season.
Look, we did. We said he would be very close to the first coach sacked, if not the first coach sacked. Being a South Sydney coach, you can't have down turns like this. Not with that squad. And you look at the squad this week, and I know they've got some injuries. Campbell Graham's been the big one. But everything else is really of his making. He keeps naming players that aren't up to it. And then when he's got a week to supposedly save his job. And for the record, I don't buy into it. I think he's gone regardless. They just don't want to sack him before a bye when they've got a week to put someone else there. He's dropped an international 20-time New South Wales Blue and made him the scapegoat. This is a bloke who just refused to stand up to the big players. This is something that Sam Burgess, who's been linked back with the club, and if I'm Sam Burgess, I'm saying, no! Because he tried to tell him and they kicked him out. He's lost the dressing room, despite backing the wrong players. He's lost the fan base, and it sounds like he's lost the board. He's on a hiding to nothing. Now, I hope as Cronulla fans, we send him out 50-0. Two of my best mates are South fans. Apologies, that's horrible, I know. Both of them have said we hope we lose this week because we want him gone. That's where the club's at now, and it's only of their own making.
I mean, yeah, and looking back at it, Demetrio only has himself to blame because after the 2021 grand final, you could see that there were holes in that squad that needed to be patched and filled and whatever. And, Adam Reynolds left and they didn't go out and recruit a halfback because he turned around and said, we've got the next best thing in the making. And outside of a handful of games, Lockie Elias has not shown anything other than being one of the bottom halfbacks in the competition. They've not gone and addressed that backline situation, and the fact that I keep saying about this guy because, and I don't have a vendetta against Tana Mill, but there is a young kid named Jacob Gagai who is killing the New South Wales Cup. Like, just what's the harm in putting him on the wing? Because you know what? From the standard that Tane Milne has set this year, it can't get any worse. It literally cannot get any worse. Now, they've been crying out for backs for years. Justin Olam was available. Kay Lero's been available. Connor Tracy's been available. And they went and threw money at Jack White and have turned around and taken a guy who's won a Dally M, won a Clive Churchill medal, been brilliant for the New South Wales Blues off, like, whether it be off the bench or in the 5'8" role, and turned around and said, we're going to put you in the centre. Now, Jack White's brilliance, individual brilliance, has made that centre move a little bit better, but I just don't know if he's the right... Like, it doesn't seem like that he has an idea of what his perfect team looks like, because even now, like, 2022, when they knocked Cronulla out of the finals, you turn around going, geez, that's a monster pack. Now you're looking at that pack going... So?
Exactly right. The general feeling is with South fans, and I don't disagree with this.
I'm about to marry one.
Well, I've just cut it off right here, right now. They signed Jack White because he's Latrell Mitchell's best mate. Another move to appease Latrell. Now, I don't want to turn this into a Latrell bash test because you and I both love the bloke, and outside of Cronulla, there's a few players that I enjoy watching at full flight. But this is a bloke that has proven you can't really build a club around. He's a very, very important piece. But you build a club around Cam Murray. You build a club around, before this year, Cody Walker.
Junior Totola.
Yes, and Colin Matangi, he's definitely down on form this season. I just felt like they had 3 or 4 needs and they went and spent almost $1 million on a out of position centre. Now, I love Jack Whiten as a player. As a 5'8", he's won pretty much every award he can win other than a premiership, and that was not through his lack of trying. They got it wrong. Well, he's got it wrong, and I think he's going to pay with his job, win, lose, or draw this weekend. And I think Sam Burgess is like they're phrasing him as he's going to come back, which I don't know if he will for one. He's a rookie coach for 2. And they sort of spat on him on the way out and said, nah, we choose them. He comes back in, he's going to say the same things. Well, this, and this they're going to do. And they're going to turn around and say, you're right. Or they're going to dig in and say, no, you're wrong and you're wrong.
Well, all the talk is saying that there will be an interim coach for 2024 and they are going hard for Wayne Bennett in 2025.
Well, we shall see. Now, speaking of re-signing news, Nick Meany signed from the Bulldogs, where he was a pretty handy player, but fringe first grader, goes down Melbourne Storm, becomes a bona fide star. Another case of Craig Bellamy does it again. I love the re-signing. He's going to be not a superstar, but he's going to be a very, very good player for the Melbourne Storm for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, there's been a couple of re-signings that have gone under the radar for how good they've been. Like Matt Timoko has extended his time at Canberra, and there wasn't a big fuss made about that, and he's genuinely one of the form one of the form centres of the competition. Young Isaiah Katoa re-sign, and the form that he's in, he's got the Dolphins first place at the moment, and there hasn't been much about it. And I didn't know Nick Meany had re-signed until you just told me.
There you go. It came out today. He has been a revelation in the centre spot in Melbourne. Deputised for Ryan Pappenhausen at fullback extremely well last year. You know, kicks goals from literally everywhere we're called upon. He's just another one that you'll like, yeah, he's an okay player, and if he signs for the Titans, you know. But if he signs for Craig Bellamy, he's going to be a star. He's just... I don't want to make this about Craig Bellamy, but he's the sort of reason why I look at Craig Bellamy and say he's the best coach in the NRL right now and has been for a long time. We got a player off contract, Kay Liro, who hopefully by the time this drops is re-signed by Cronulla after being named their second week in a row. Can you imagine if he goes to Melbourne? He'd be the best centre in the competition in 3 years.
Yeah, it's a scary thought. Like, you and I both said a player like Oregon Kaufusi when he signed for Cronulla would be the type of player that Craig Bellamy would have snapped up years ago. And unfortunately, it just hasn't worked out for Cronulla. But you could see him leaving Cronulla and going down to Melbourne and going, man, why did that work for us? Why didn't it work for us? So, Nick Meany. I thought Meany was always good for the Dogs, whether they put him on the wing or they put him at fullback. I think he always showed that bit of class and speed in rugby league can get you a long way. It really can. Like, it's given AJ Brimson a career that he doesn't deserve at the moment. That's a shot at you, by the way. But yeah, Nick Meany's a fantastic player and one that every club would be happy to have. And he's at Melbourne, you know, staying around with Harry Grant, staying around with Jerome Hughes, staying around with Paps, and staying around with Cam Munster. I think it's great. You can't knock it.
Speaking of not knocking, Terry, a major milestone, really, that went under the radar this weekend. Kyle Feldt broke the try-scoring record for the Cowboys. He probably doesn't get the flowers he deserves. He's been fantastic for the Cowboys for so many years now. Been great for Queensland when called upon. Scored the try in the 2015 Grand Final. People know what I'm talking about. They don't need to look it up. It was the try. I don't think he gets anywhere near the recognition he deserves, and I was glad to see a bit of brouhaha made for him when he did cross for that try. Unfortunately, I knew I was in for it as soon as AJ Brimson threw that pass and it hit Feldt on the chest and he ran the length. And I actually went and muted you on Facebook because I thought, I'm going to hear about that. But I was glad to see it for Kyle Feldt because he's a Cowboy, one of very few Cowboys that I look at and think, yeah, I like that player.
Yeah, look, when you look at Kyle Feldt, like he's had a fantastic career. Like, he's won a premiership. He's played for Queensland. I remember watching him in Toyota Cup and just thinking, this kid is absolutely amazing. And then there was a grand final. It was against the Warriors. And they scored it in Toyota Cup. They scored a try right on full time, and it was 30-all. And this was when Conrad Harrell and Sasai Feki were just running right in the Toyota Cup, right? And they scored a try right next to the post to make it 30-all, and all Kyle Feldt had to do was kick the goal, and they win the game. And he missed the goal, and the Warriors went and win it in Golden Point. And I thought to myself, God, I hope we don't lose the kid for a miss like that. Like, I hope that doesn't smash his career. He's gone out and had a great career. He scored more tries against Cronulla than any other team that he's played against. He loves playing against us. He's a player who, like, can really get under your skin. And if he's not on your team, you don't like him. But because, I've backed Queensland and I get to see him play, I do enjoy Kyle Feldt. I thought, he's got one of the highlights of the modern grand final by scoring that try in 2015. And now he's got a record for his club, which is great. He's a one club player. He's a local junior, as was Mango. But yeah, I think it's great. I think it's awesome for him, and the Cowboys certainly celebrated it. He certainly celebrated it, and the Cowboys have celebrated him. Is he ever going to make like a top 20 list of wingers that have played in the NRL? Probably not. But do you think the Cowboys would have traded him for any other winger? Probably not.
No, it's been fantastic. Glad to see. Congratulations, Kyle. Big fan of the show. I have it on good authority, but good stuff.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Knock On podcast brought to you by Zero Tackle, your one-stop shop for everything that you need in terms of transfers, in terms of rumours, player movements, the big news, the gossip, everything you get on there. We've got some of the best writers in the country that follow rugby league, and then you've got Dan Nichols. Dan, what have we got on Zero Tackle this week for the viewers and the listeners?
Well, it's going to be a big one, as it always is. A lot of South Sydney stuff coming up. Like, that's just... You're in the news for a reason, South fans, I'm sorry to say. But I am working on something that I've pushed back a little bit from last week, and that is a Shane Flanagan feature. I've also linked Kailiro to a number of clubs, unfortunately, but sometimes the job calls for such heartbreak and such pain. But yeah, that Shane Flanagan thing's something I've worked very hard on and put a lot of thought into. So looking forward to that dropping and seeing what the how I'm wrong, to be honest. So look out, Dragons fans. It's a positive piece, and there are not many of those going around. So keep an eye.
You get Dan's 20 thoughts of the week every week. It's always a fantastic read. He puts his neck out on the line. Everyone does great work behind the scenes. Looking forward to it, mate. I'll see you next week.